Hey everyone, it's Britt, owner of Even If Candle Company. In this video, I'm going to show you how I create my room in linen mist. Stay tuned. All right, so I have my little setup here on the table. First, obviously, you're gonna want a bottle of choice. I always take the tops off first. I also wipe down the bottles with a rubbing alcohol. That way there's no, marks, or it just cleans it a little better. Sometimes these bottles, wherever you get them, they'll be in storage for a while in a warehouse, so you just want to make sure dust and all that is off of them. All right, so the tops are off. I have my scale, my calculator. I use a Sorbate 20, Crafter's Choice. And I use a Preservative, also Crafter's Choice. The Sorbate will allow the oil and the fragrance oil and the distilled water to mix well, so it's a nice mist in the air. And then Preservative, of course, preserves the room spray. Another supply that you will need is a distilled water. You can find that, of course, anywhere. And I have a little funnel. That way it's easier to pour in the bottles and there's no spills. I also use these skewers. It's easier to pour. I was gonna say I need a pitcher and a spoon as well. I usually use my crafting spatulas, but I didn't feel like grabbing them from the other room, so I'm gonna use the spoon that I've been using. But I use these skewers because it prevents spillage and all that, and it allows more control when you're using the polysorbate preservative and the fragrance oil. All right, and then I'm gonna put my gloves on. All right, so my gloves are on now and I'm going to start. So the way that I do it is I will mix the distilled water and these two products here first in here. I never put the fragrance oil in here because there are times, even though today I am making all four of the same, because I need them for inventory, typically I'll do more than 1 scent. So I don't like to have to wash this out every single time. So I'll make the mixture and the base in this alone, and then I will then add the fragrance oil to each bottle. Let's get started here. So this formula that I use, 92% distilled water. So that's your main base for a room spray. It's 2% polysorbate, 5% fragrance oil, and 1% preservative. So this is going off of a 4-ounce bottle recipe. Okay, so the first ingredient that I'm going to use is the distilled water. Okay, so of course you want to measure everything. You want consistency in your product. And I measure in grams as well. So we're going to do 4 bottles. So it's 104, little over 104 grams of distilled water per bottle. So being that there's 4, I'm going to obviously multiply that number by 4. So it's going to be 417.2. So let's pour that. All right, so like I said, I use these skewers. So the next step is the polysorbate. I'm going to pour in. So it is a 2% per bottle. So that will be 2.3 grams per bottle for the poly. So multiply that by 4 and it's 9.2 grams. Okay. The poly is in. I'm going to use the same skewer. It's a 1% for preservative. So that's 1.1 grams per bottle. Multiply that by 4, and it's going to be 4.4. The preservative is a little more runny, so just be careful that you don't pour too much. Just take it slowly because you can't remove any of it. Okay, so once your poly, sorbate, and your preservative are in, I'm just gonna close these up quick so they don't spill anywhere. All right, and now I'm going to turn off the scale and just mix. You're gonna notice that it's a little cloudy. That's normal. I actually was going to do a different room spray recipe, and I got all the ingredients for it because I realized that a lot of customers during vendor events would pick up a spray and point it towards them for their skin. And of course I would stop that because it's not used for your skin. It's not a perfume. It's for your linens and room. But anyway, so I got a different recipe for skin safe, and I found that it smells a lot like alcohol. So I'm really trying to figure out the math more for that before I switch completely to a different formula. So that's gonna be a long time coming because I don't have time right now to change that up, but I do have all the ingredients and I will be working on that. But this recipe works just fine. I get nothing but great reviews on my room sprays. The scent lingers in the air for a long time. It doesn't make the floor sticky, just like a Febreze would. Not saying anything bad about Febreze, but I found that I wasn't breathing very well with aerosol sprays. So I really love the idea of making my own room sprays. Okay, so once your scale is tared out, I place the bottle and the funnel on. I'm going to now pour the base mixture in. So the total base is 107.3 grams. So let's get started on that. Okay. Remove that. Sometimes if I just tear out the scale, it'll show an error because I've been tearing out this whole time. So sometimes it's just best to just turn off your scale and restart it. All right. I'm going to pour the next. And if you pour too much base, that's okay. I have these little dropper things that I get from Amazon that I can link below, and you can easily just remove the excess that you don't need. Just a little more, come on. That's good. Okay. Actually put a little more in this one since it was at 106. So I'm just going to pour the remainder since there was just some drops left. Okay. So move those aside. And now, move these over here. Okay, so now that the base is all poured in the bottles, I'm going to now use my droppers and pour in my fragrance oil. It is 5% according to the formula. So I use 5.7 grams of fragrance oil per bottle. So I multiply that by 4, and that's 22.8 grams. So if you were to just mix it in your pitcher, that's what you would do if you don't want to individualize it like the way I do it. Okay, so I'm going to start putting my fragrance oil in. These are the droppers, and I will link, like I said, I will link all of this stuff below. Pretty close. Last bottle. For some reason, I just don't have a steady hand today. I don't know why. All right, so now that the fragrance oil is done, the next step is to put your caps on. And just give them a little shake. All right. One thing I love about these room sprays is if you don't have them made, they don't have to curate at all. So you can immediately use them. So that's awesome, because sometimes I'll put more available for inventory, and someone will want, you know, let's say 4 of my lavender sprays. I can easily make them and send them out. So that saves on bottles as well. Because if you're not selling a certain scent, at least you don't have it made. It takes, what, 15, 20 minutes to make a batch. So I think that's pretty cool. So I think that is actually a smart way of making these bottles. All right, so I figured I would label. I like to, I don't know if you guys can see it, but there's lines, one here and one on this side. So I like to go in the center of that and place it here. Okay. Perfect. I love these labels. And then, because I'm OCD, I turn the knob so it's all lined up. I would put on a room spray warning label, but I need to make more. But yeah, I always put a room spray warning label on the bottom and make sure that it's facing up so it's all just in line. That's just me, because I'm crazy. And that's how I create my room and linen spray. I hope you guys learned something from this video, and I hope it helped you out. If you guys have any questions, please comment below and I will try and answer them for you. As always, thank you so much for watching and supporting my channel. God bless.